So I just got dropped off on Binney Hill Road, at least as far up as my wife's car could take us. And today we're hiking on the Wapack Trail from Binney Hill Road up over Pratt and New Ipswich Mountains, and finally coming out at the Windblown ski area. So first thing we have to do is walk up this road, maybe about a quarter of a mile. Here you can see the yellow triangular blazes. This is where the trail comes in from Mount Watatic, and they've gated it over now. You can see where they've done a lot of logging in the area, and we're heading down this trail instead through the woods. And our next stop will be Binney Pond, which is a beaver pond, actually an old flooded farm field. You can still see the rock walls under the water. So we'll check in from the pond. So we just crossed the outflow to Binney Pond. It's fun to kind of see it in the distance. This was either pasture land or farmland at one time, because it's still delineated with a lot of stone walls that crisscross the valley. But the beaver dam has flooded the whole valley. So at this point, it's just a large pond. It's actually pretty ingrown back here. You can see somebody's put up some nice planks to get us across the wetlands on the edge of the pond. And here we go. So here you can actually see this remnants of a stone wall that heads out and then slowly disappears under the pond. Last year at this time I saw actually a blue heron that was nesting in one of these dead trees, but all seems very still this morning. All right. So we'll continue on our way. This wooden planking was actually part of an Eagle Scout project a couple of years ago. It's still holding up very well. Okay. So just took a little side trail back over to the pond's edge. We're paralleling it, heading north. But you can actually see a pretty big beaver lodge out there on that little island. So beaver are still happy and healthy and doing what beavers do and keeping the valley flooded. So if I scoot around a little bit to the other side of this tree, I can barely make out our next destination, which is the summit of Pratt Mountain. So there's an overlook up there. We'll take a time to catch the view back at the pond from the overlook, and then take a break somewhere up in the vicinity of the summit of Pratt Mountain. Got a little wildlife this morning. This little red eft that was hanging out in the trail. So he's a real small one. We'll let him go and head back into the water. It's getting close to hibernation time. So we've just reached the northernmost tip of Binney Pond, and as you can see, there's a sign here pointing out a spring to the left, and just take a quick look. Boy, there's a lot of salamanders around here. It's amazing how many are on the trail. Let's go and see if there's any water running in the spring. There we go. There's not a lot. There's actually a fair amount of water there, which we could filter, but I've got 3 full liters with me. Nothing much flowing though. Haven't had rain in a good long week and a half. And it's later in the summer, so there's not a lot of movement of water. So we're finally up to the ledges. We're about 100 feet below the summit of Pratt Mountain. And we came up through largely oak forest from the spring. It's about a, I'd say, 700-foot climb. I think we're another 100 feet or 200 feet below the Pratt Mountain summit in the ridgeline. This is a really good view of Binney Pond, which is the old farm that was flooded by the beaver dam. Too high to really see anything. But I guess all of the raptors have already started their migration south, because in the spring up here you're usually dodged with little red-tailed hawks, which are flying around these ledges. In the distance you see Mount Watatic. So the Wapack Trail skirts the southern end, or the far end of the pond, heads up Kidder Mountain, and then finally up to Mount Watatic and over the summit, popping out on Route 119, where it hooks up with the Mid-State Trail. So it's kind of a good view of the southern course of the Wapack Trail. So, made it to the top of New Ipswich Mountain, which is marked just by these summit cairns. There's actually no markers, no views. We're surrounded totally by trees, so we can't see in any direction. So hopefully there'll be an outlook to the west further ahead. So good time for a break. Take 15 minutes for some water and a candy bar. And then on to the next summit, which will be BArrett Mountain. And after that, the Wapack cross-country ski area. So we're about 3 miles in to the hike, and we've climbed about 1,100 feet in total elevation. Okay, going on for about a half an hour. There's another little opening to the west. You can just about see the summit of Graham and Adnock in the distance. It is very hazy. Anyway, a nice view. A little bit of color around there. So here we are, approaching the summit of BArrett Mountain. And I have to say, it's been a totally different hike. Where before we were going through mostly oak trees. This has all been hemlock and balsam and been pretty closed in and humid. But the trail is wonderful. It's all pine needle, so it's soft going underfoot and pretty level. Somewhere up ahead there's going to be a turnoff for a shelter which belongs to the Windblown ski area. And if I can find a turnoff, I'd actually like to check out the shelter for potential use in the future. So we summited BArrett Mountain, and now we're heading down on the property of the Windblown cross-country ski area. I tried to find the shelter, and there's a number of different trails going off to the side, but I've decided to just stay on the Wapack since the Windblown folks have been so nice to let folks have free easement through here in the non-ski season, but with the caution that they don't want people on these ski trails. So we'll respect that and just stay on the Wapack. So heading down to Kidder Mountain parking area and the car. So we're about 100 feet above the base of BArrett Mountain, and the Wapack Trail has just merged with what they call the back 40, which is the cross-country ski trail. So you can see it's a lot wider, less rocky, much easier going. So we have about another mile or so to get to the parking area, but I believe that most of the trail at this point is just this nice grassy wide roadway. We've finally broken out of the forest at the base of the mountain, and we are crossing this power line easement. And at this point we'll just skirt the southern end of the ski area and head out toward the highway, which by this point should be about a half a mile ahead. So here we are back at the trailhead, cars waiting, and I am ready for a burger and a Coke. We just did 7 miles and just under 1,600 feet of total elevation gain. So I guess this is a personal best for me. What a great day, great views, and hardly anybody on the trails. So nice Columbus Day weekend hike.